But to achieve it on a commercial level, of course, is a very significant challenge. Now, when the birds start nipping the top, you've got to become very vigilant, as I said, because if you don't, you'll lose your seed, and you lose it quite quickly. And I did some research on this in the Midlands of Tasmania, and there was 3 kinds of birds down there. There was silver eyes, green rosella, and eastern rosella, and there was a little patch of sparrows down there. Plus there were the other birds that surround it, but they're not the foragers on the plant itself. But these 3 were foraging on the plant itself. Now, they all help one another, these, because you've got your wood pigeons and your various other birds that come in on the ground floor. And these birds, these small birds, they fly in, they bump the seed, because the seed is only held in place by a little bracket like that. And the seed sits there like an egg, and there's a little bit of resin that holds it there. If you shake the plant, the seed will fall out of it. So the birds fly in with a bit of flourish. Some of the seeds fall down, they bash around, pick seeds. The field mice come in, they eat the ones on the ground, and they'll go up the stem and eat them. The wood pigeons will come in, they clean everything up on the ground, and the rats. And these other little birds, they're constantly bumping the seed off. Now, what I found was that every fortnight I was losing about 15% of the seed on the plant. So for every week you delay, you're probably losing between 7 and 10% of your potential harvest. So if you wait 10 weeks from when the birds first start to pick those seeds off the top, then you're not going to have a hell of a lot left. And there was fields there that I looked at that had potential on my first sample harvest of between 1 and 1.1 tonnes to the hectare, and when they were finally harvested, they got 90 kilos per hectare. And the evidence of where that seed went was when you walked into the paddock, a cloud of birds would fly out of that crop. And there was one guy down at Blackwood Creek. He had a beautiful crop there of about 10 hectares, and I remember the day I went down there to have a look with him, and I think, John, no, you mightn't have been there. Phil Warner was with me. We went down, and I said to Phil, look at all them birds here. They're going to be a good breeding year next year, because they're going to be well fed. And the Wilfo Tool was his bloke's name. And I said, well, when you come out next time on your tractor, you want to bring your shotgun with you and just see if you can thin these out a bit. Anyway, he never did anything. He harvested 6 weeks later. And I think out of his whole paddock, he got about 250 kilos. And that was it. He just couldn't go on like that.
So what's the moral of the story?
The moral of the story is that be aware of where your birds are, what kind of birds you got, and if they're starting to get in your crop, you're going to have to do something about it.
You're going to harvest early and dry.
You're going to have to do something about it very quick.
So that's what you're fighting.
Yeah. And it's got to happen quick. This is the thing. You've only got a very limited window when this starts happening, because those birds will go away and tell other birds. And I don't know how birds talk to one another, but by gee, they get it pretty right.
I think they just smell it on the bread.
They get it right. Very important factor.
Peter, we had ducks pulling our seedlings out.
Yeah. Yeah. Crows will do it too.
Yeah, just pulling them out.
So we haven't had any birds in our New South Wales or Queensland crops. Touch wood.
Now with pest control, I did have the opportunity to put in a crop of hemp beside an organically grown brassica crop, which in fact were broccoli. Now these guys didn't have their broccoli worked out very well, and I was having a look at their broccoli crop as it was developing, and their infestation of Heliothis and cabbage white grub was 8 grubs per leaf. And obviously it didn't come to much. But what interested me was that 1 metre away I had a hemp crop. Now I wanted to know what infection I was going to get into my hemp crop. And that year, when the seed was setting, I got 1 Heliothis grub per square metre and no cabbage white moth in there. Now that was quite significant to me, and I reported it in that way. However, in subsequent years, during seed set, particularly the last few years, the Heliothis have built up, and it's not unusual to get 5 and 6 grubs to the square metre. Now, this is something you need to be vigilant about as well. If that infection level is building up, you do need to do something about it, otherwise it will limit the amount of seed that will set. Now, if you don't irrigate your seed crop, then your seed will be light, and during the, or it won't all set. You'll get a lot of seed what looks like it's set, but when you walk up with the plant and you squeeze the seed, it's hollow, it's got nothing in it. So irrigation is critical at seed fill time, a bit like green peas, very important at seed fill time. However, if you're growing a fibre crop, I tested this several times. You don't irrigate until the leaves are drooping. Now the plant takes a lot of killing when it comes to droughting it. It's fairly drought resistant. And those leaves were drooping and they were getting dark and they were starting to take on another colour and they looked very sick. However, put one irrigation on them of say 15 to 20 mil or maybe an inch, 25 millimetres over the whole crop, and they pick up again and they probably don't even need irrigating again for that season. This is a fibre crop. The optimum irrigation that I found was that you irrigate first to make sure it comes out of the ground. That's a very important irrigation because the seed will lay there quietly if it's dry. If it's powder dry, it'll lay there and it won't do anything until the moisture level's right. But once you put the moisture in it, it comes up very quickly. It can germinate in 3 or 4 days. And then it just takes off as long as your weed control's right. The next time you irrigate is when it's about knee high. It seems to get a lot of bulk at that stage. And the next time that you irrigate is when it's starting to fill its seed out. They're the critical times. Now, if you've got irrigation and you want to do better than that, provide a bit more irrigation than that and hopefully get a better crop, then you can irrigate in between those times. Like potatoes, for instance, in our end of the world get irrigated 7 or 8 times during the growing period. Poppies get irrigated 3 to 4 times on an average year. Hemp is a bit like poppies and probably a bit hardier. So, yeah, so the leaf drooping is the sign, and people would walk into the paddock when I was doing this saying, they're going to die. And I would say, well, I'm going to let them go for another fortnight, see what happens. Then we'll put 25 millimetres on them, and poof, up they came and away they went again. Now another very interesting thing was, you can kill hemp by waterlogging it, and John alluded to this. A very simple thing that happened was, a guy put 40 hectares in down on some heavy black soil. It came up nicely. The variety was Finola, which only grows about this tall. And the irrigation pipe broke 9 o'clock that night. The irrigator ran all night. When he got up at 7:30 in the morning, he could still hear the pump going. It was supposed to switch itself off, and it was still going. And there was, when I came down a week later, there was this V down the paddock as I was coming around the side of the hill, and I was overlooking this field, and I could see this big V, big brown V down the paddock. And I went up to the house and I said to Noel, what's going on over there? There's this big brown V in the paddock. And he said, oh, the irrigation pipe broke. She ran all night. That V is where they all died. All dead in the paddock. About a hectare, they just died. Now, last year we had floods in the paddock, and we had hemp crops down on the floodplains, and interestingly they didn't all die. A lot did die, but a lot didn't die either, so there's something a bit different. Now the soil there was very loamy, where this floodplain was, it was very loamy, and I suggested with the speed of the flood coming up and then running away again, which was about 24 hours, and the amount of drainage capacity in their soil, then there must have been enough aeration in there to stop all those plants from dying. Whereas the guy on the side of the hill, his was a heavy soil, and I guess it just laid wet, and it was just too much for it. It's the only thing I can put it down to. Any questions?
You mentioned sowing with gear. I gather you're talking about small seed box on. If you've got, we've got a Duncan triple disc system, you should be aware of. That would be fine to work so.
Well, I mean, we always work with precision equipment and either air seeders or belt feed systems, and run them across a floor like this, a concrete floor, and see what seeds you're putting down. And that way, you know, just count a metre of seeds and you know what you're putting down. And that way you can work out exactly what you're doing. Precision is very important in all agriculture if you want to be cost effective. Because people would say to me, oh, put in 25 kilos to the hectare, put in 30 kilos to the hectare, put in 60 kilos to the hectare. I would go back and work this out, got my field factor, my germination test, all those things. I only need 4 kilos. So I put 4 kilos in and I get the same result.
So what would be the best time to fertilize?
The system I always used was either band placing the fertiliser beneath or to the side of the seed, or pre-drilling it a week before.
So during the whole weeks of growing, you don't need any more?
Unless you're nitrogen deficient. If you've got a nitrogen, because they do like a bit of nitrogen, if it's nitrogen deficient, you will see that your crop is looking pale, in which case you can top dress with say 25-30 kgs per hectare of some nitrogen-based fertiliser.
Canadians say don't put it to the seed. They've had some burning issues. It's touchy on that, so you could limited to how much you could put down the same box. No word, but just be aware of it.
Now there was one guy rang me up, or one company rang me up, because of the speed of the growing of hemp. They wanted to use it as a wind barrier for growing green beans. Now green beans only grow about so tall, the bush bean, and they have about 10 or 12 pods per plant, and because they tend to bulk a little bit, if it's a windy area, the pods rub and you get these little brown marks on the pods. And when the harvesters go through, and then the bean pods going for either freeze drying or canning or pre-packing, then if they've got these little brown marks on them, they're downgraded or they're rejected, depending on the percentage. Now, because hemp grows so fast, the concept was that you could go onto cheaper ground, which is wind-blown ground. You could put your beans in, and every 10 or 20 metres you could put a 2-metre strip of industrial hemp through. And the beans and the hemp would grow at the same rate. Because the hemp, as the beans growing up, the hemp's growing up, and you get this microclimate in between the hemp rows. And that would then cause the wind to billow high, and you don't get your pod rub down on your beans, down in amongst them, and in amongst your bush beans. And that concept was looked at very favourably because they were looking at putting up these shade cloth type wind barriers. But with that, you've got steel droppers, wire, you've got the shade cloth, you've got the issue of moving across your paddock because you've got to go through this stuff from time to time or around the end of it. Whereas with a hemp crop, you can drive straight through it if you want to. You're only going to put a 2-metre track through it when you drive your machine through. The only thing that stopped it in the end was that what do you do with all this hemp? And that's where the hemp industry needs to develop, because hemp has so many uses, and that's just another one. Any other questions? Anyway, feel free to talk about it. I'll conclude it. We'll adjourn to a meal.
Hemp seminar, a hemp symposium, or whatever we have, and I've just been sort of fiddling around the edges, being quite peripheral, having my first introduction to hemp was with the Tasmanian Hemp Company way back whenever it was, it was just after the slash and burn campaign was just starting to change a little bit. But at that stage, everything was pretty hard also. And we did trial crushing down at Tinderbox with Patsy and Fritz, and over 2 or 3 years or something like that. And we had quite a bit of difficulty with crushing from time to time. But at that stage, we didn't have much idea why it was, because the seed that we're crushing varied in varieties, varied in presentation, and we didn't have enough of it, or we didn't have enough experience to know exactly what was going on. And I should start off and give you a bit of a rundown on Stony Creek. We've been around for, since '92. We did our first crushing. We started the value-added business on the farm as a result of the demise of the fine wool program, the loss of the floor price, and also the recession that we had to have in the end of the 80s. We started up, we got going in '92. We started up value-adding our own safflower. We gradually got into crushing flax seed, improved our factory, and we crushed quite a bit of flax seed for the health food market. It goes into health food shops mainly. We direct market as well. And we have been doing a bit of export, but currently with the dollar where it's sitting and lack of standards around the world, it's pretty hard to market Aussie oil into the export market. So in 2 years ago, I think it was, Phil Warner, whom I've known for quite a while, and we'd sort of been in and out of communication over that period of time as Phil was trying to get his program up, and I was busy elsewhere. I couldn't see much sense in standing around waiting. So Phil come back and asked me if I would get involved with crushing hemp again. And I'd been out of it for a while, and I'd had a permit to crush, but during all the touring and throwing of departments and so forth, my permit had lapsed, and I hadn't pursued it vigorously enough to get it going again. Anyway, with Phil's aid and Greg King's aid, we got the permit up and we started crushing. Since then, I've learned quite a bit more about the hemp, its habits, and so forth, and what we really require, what constitutes a seed that we're able to crush. As we've been going through the day, Peter's having a bit to say about the quality, and John had a bit to say about the quality too. Quality is everything. When you come to make a product from a seed, if you don't start off with a quality seed in the first place, it's very hard to pick up that lost ground in the processing. And one of the things that Peter was mentioning was the weeds, and one of my favourite weeds there is fat hen. So it's a marvellous piece of gear, and it has the capacity to ruin your seed sample overnight. I've had linseed that's been harvested, it's contaminated with fat hen, and by the time that fat hen was separated the next day, that seed was ruined. And it was yellow linseed, and in another sample of yellow linseed I had 48 hours, and that linseed, yellow linseed was brown. So it doesn't take long for it to ruin your seed. So it's most essential to keep the weeds under control in the seed crop.
What's happening to it when it goes from yellow to brown?
It's overheated.
Moisture?
Yeah, it's the moisture in the fat hens, the seed in the fat hen, unless you desiccate, the seed in the fat hen is always wet, and the seed overheats. It only takes it 24 hours to do it. And not only ruins the germination of the seed, but it ruins the seed for processing. We can still process it, but the oil that you get from it won't be good quality oil. So I thought, given the opportunity to do that today, I thought I would mention a few things about seed, seeing as that's the area that I'm interested in at the moment, that perhaps we haven't come across. And whilst it's not meant to be a prescriptive program for seed presentation, it's something that we can start there and gradually pick up any points that we need to address in the presentation of seed. Because at the moment the seed is like hemp products are not approved for food use, but as John was saying, at the by the end of the year, hopefully we may get approval to use the seed as a food product. And at that stage, it'll be even more important that the seed is good quality when it comes in. We started off, point number one, fat hen gets mentioned. That's my pet hate. But there's other seeds also. In recent samples I've been crushing, there was quite a bit of cereal grain in it. There was barley and wheat mainly, and barley and wheat it's impossible to grade out of hemp, and there are other seeds too that will be impossible to grade out. Any seed, any fine, like if you had canola growing in your hemp crop, probably wouldn't matter because the canola is a small round seed. It'd be easy to get out. Oats, probably easy to get out. If you had any broken oats though, they probably wouldn't be able to get out. Wild radish is not a problem. In cereal, wild radish is a real problem because it doesn't matter what size crop you're growing, what size of grain it is, wild radish will break up to have a seed. Part of its pod will break up, there'll be wild radish for everything. In the seed cleaning, the cereal grains obviously can come out of the harvester or out of the seed cleaner as well. In the harvesting also, we mentioned before that John and Peter I think both mentioned the moisture content. We've got to be really careful with the moisture content with the seed for storage. In work the CSIRO have done, it was 7% was set as a moisture content for storage of canola, and that similarly applies to any oil seed, and hemp would have to be classed as oil seed because of its oil level. I don't know what its ideal moisture content would be, but care must be taken when storing anything if it has a marginal moisture content, because it can go off in the silo, because of the microclimate in the silo. The moisture content can get higher in other areas because of the transpiration, and the seed can go off. In the one sample, the last seed that I crushed, we had a problem with dust in the seed. Now, that's one of the first problems we discovered with the crushing is the dust level. Now, it depends on the type of machine that you're using for crushing, whether the dust is a real problem or not. But any machine that has cage bars and instead of a screen as part of its makeup doesn't like dust in the seed. Now, we had the seed coming in really good. It was really clean. dust level was very minimal. And then we had the last lot, part of the batch was very high in dust. As we progressed, we found that not only, I've had a look in my bag, I'm not sure if I brought a little sample, I think, I'll have to check. But not only was there dust in it, but there was seed fat. And the seed fat was broken seed heart. So usually that comes from over thrashing in the harvesting. So it's the same with safflower. If the harvester over thrashes the safflower and breaks the hull on the safflower, and you get the seed out, that seed breaks up into small crumbs, and then it sticks to everything. And it sticks to the screens, it sticks to the riddles, it sticks to absolutely everything, up the augers, everywhere. And when it gets to the seed grader, it sticks to their screens, and it will oil up their indents and things like that, so you can't get a seed separation. It really sabotages the effort. So at harvesting, that has to be, breaking seed has to be avoided. Usually it comes from, usually from the drum setting. It's either going too fast or it's too tight. Seed grading, we've covered that. And also we crush and we produce, we maintain a food standard with our crushing all the time, because we've no idea even currently, we've no idea what the end use of this stuff is when it goes out. So if we don't maintain a food standard on the treatment of that seed, there's a real risk that it's not going to be up to standard when it gets through the other end. So back on the farm, everything should be considered as food standard. So the storage of the seed, anyone that's doing any on-farm storage of the seed, I would recommend that it's stored with the aeration on the silo, if it is silo stored. In bulker bags, they're not so critical, because bulker bags appear to breathe. They don't have a microclimate like silos have, so it's not so critical. Bulker bags are much better than ordinary bags because they don't attract rodent attack as bad as like 40k bags or something like that on a stack. It's very exposed to rodent attack. Bulker bags should be new bulker bags, not reused bulker bags, because we've had problems in transit with second-hand bulker bags, and you're not really sure what's been in the bulk bag for a start, but they only have a limited lifespan. And they look okay when they leave, but they don't resist attack by forklift too well if they're not new bulker bags. And the ribbed bulker bags are the best ones. The ribbed, they have a baffle in the corner, in each corner, so they don't spread out and spread everywhere. They hold their composure. Not only do they stay on the pallet well, but they don't fall over. So those ones that spread out everywhere have got a bad habit of falling over.
What percentage of oil do you get out of Tasmania?
Why do you ask technical questions?
Well, that's why you're the president.
Someone said 25% oil in them before.
I was being a bit generous, mate.
We've been getting about 23.
The book says up to 33.
Yeah,
Various people.
I don't think we've tested any. Have we tested any of that? Have you tested any of that seed for oil content before I've crushed it?
No.
No. It's something we should be doing so we get a better idea of where we're going. But we've been getting around about 23%, and sometimes we get a bit more, sometimes we get a bit less, but we can get more. At 23%, we're not getting all we can get because there's quite a bit of oil still going out with filter cake, and at the moment I can't get that out of the filter cake. We've got new machines coming in. When we get them, we'll probably be able to put the filter cake back through and get that oil out.
So what do you do with the rest of the meal, the meat?
The meal?
Yeah.
The meal mainly is going out for animal food at the moment. It's John's meal is going out for to a piggery, and they're using it in their mix. But there's a certain amount of it goes out in 20 kilo bags, and where that goes, I don't know. It's Hemp's customers. They release parcels of material, and that goes out into the freight, and I've no idea where it goes or what it's used for. I know where it goes, but I don't know what they're using it for.
Yeah, with the pressing, have you noticed, I remember the time when you were doing it in Tassie, and I brought some down for you to press for Tassie and Chris. Now some of it was dehulled seed.
Yes.
I inadvertently put it in a machine and dehulled it before I realised what it was doing. Now that didn't press so well.
No. No. I'm not sure if we could press dehulled seed at the moment or not. The machines we use are expellers. They're continuous screw expellers, and sometimes if you have a hulled machine like that, you need a hydraulic press, something that has continuous pressure on it, but it has a like a filter cloth around it, so that it doesn't matter how much of an emulsion you have, it won't go through the filter cloth, only the oil will go through. But a lot of that stuff we can't use. It's the expellers really need a certain amount of fibre in among it. It's to make it work. It's very difficult to press sesame with an expeller, a continuous screw expeller. And what a lot we're doing is mixing the sesame with rice hulls. Put a percentage of rice hulls in with the sesame to get them to go through. And sweet almond is another one. A lot of the time they only press the flitchings, and the flitchings have got the almond hulls in there also, so they use the almond hulls to push it through. But if you want to make almond flour, that's not much good to you. It gets a bit gritty. So.
Okay, Greg will have to move along and save questions for a bit later. Was that your...
I'm done.
No, good on you, Brett. Don't go home yet, you've got a little bit of time then.
No.
You got to go?
Yes, what I'll do, I'll give Lynn a copy of that on email her a copy, and so you can have it on file.
Fantastic.
And anything that I come across, we'll keep adding it to the file so that we end up with an improved dossier to go on.
And we can put that on the website?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
For what it's worth.
Thanks, Ed. So now I'd like to welcome Greg King. Greg's got a little bit of setting up to do. So I guess that's an opportunity for a few more questions while he sets up. If you want to direct questions to anybody who's already presented. John, you are? Yeah?
Fred, for food grade oil storage, does it have to be cool stored at what temperature?
The oil?
Yeah.
Yes, yes it does. It's well, reasonably high in omega-3, which is a very active part of the oil. And anything with a high omega-3 needs to have the light, the oxygen, and the heat kept away from it. So we pack under nitrogen. We pack it in opaque containers, and we keep it in the cool room. Now, 38 degrees is the critical temperature, but we keep it about 8 degrees in the cool room. So
38.
38 is the critical
Oh,
temperature.
when it starts to degrade.
Yeah, it starts to degrade over 38, but the lower you can keep it in temperature, the longer it lasts before it starts to degrade. It's a sliding scale, I suppose.
Take it in the car, you've got to put it in the nest.
Well, but keep it in the shade. If you got it in the car, keep it in the shade. Like if you're going in, yeah, in the esky sofas.
Joe, question?
Oxidization and heat, what would be the highest temperature that you would reach with your machine when you are crushing?
It varies from about 15 to 30 degrees. It depends on the seed,
right,
and the ambient temperature. We've got a evaporative cooler on our cool room.
right.
So in the summertime, we run the evaporative cooler there to keep the ambient temperature down. As the ambient temperature goes up, so does the temperature of the production.
Yeah, yeah.
But just at the moment, it'd be running at about 20 degrees.
Right. And the highest would be the permissible high.
I'd say 38 is the permissible high, because over 38 changes start to take place.
Okay. And how can you check the oxidization in the oil?
If you keep all your parameters correct
Right.
in your production, check it with testing after you finish your production.
Okay.
It's really, you can't do much more with it. If you do everything correct, you can only test your final product.
Yeah. Thank you.
More questions? Get it while it's hot, come on. Any questions of John Muir from the first presentation?
Oh, yeah, when's he coming to Victoria? When's his portable machine?
Okay.
Machine that you can...
What's
Process.
the recommendation, what's the recommendation that Lionel, if he's chomping at the bit, wants to get something going in Victoria, from your perspective, what would you recommend that Lionel do?
We would need a minimum critical mass of growers on the ground who would be interested to have that initial trial within a region of 100 k's or whatever it's going to be for fibre. The seed industry is different. I mean, we've got Fred here, so that, you know, we can move seed around pretty easily, and the industry's there. The fibre is a different one. It takes a lot more effort, so that's going to be, I've talked to, even if there's regional funds available, I don't know, with these factories closing down in Tassie and, you know, wood chip mills and all that, there's money, regional money available, and I don't know what department they are, but sometimes there's regional money that can help set up new businesses, because we've got the knowledge and the technology, and we'll come in to help, but we can't put all that money out to start. So
you have to
critical
get-
mass of growers.
So what is the
100
minimum
growers.
critical mass of growers?
Yeah.
I said the end result would be 500 hectares, but we've got to crawl before we walk, so we need half a dozen growers in an area who are keen to try it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Joe?
Question to Peter. How can we get in touch with contract growers in Tasmania?
The best thing is to ask me about it.
Excellent, that's what I'm doing.
Do you live in Tassie?
No. Close to Tassie. Melbourne is close. Thank you, Peter. We can talk later.
One moment, please.
Yeah, sorry.
Loading.
As John was saying before, like if hemp is approved for food at the end of the year, there's a lot of other work going on that will come online and will then help the viability of the growers to grow in an area, which then will help John's situation.
Okay, on that subject of food, it's not likely to be approved by the end of this year. It's been blown out, the actual process. Food Standards Australia in New Zealand is the regulatory body for having hemp approved as a food. They have no objection to it. In the last round of applications that occurred in 1998 to 2002, a more recent application was lodged by an individual in New South Wales, and that application has been reviewed. Because After FSANZ approves it, it goes to the Ministerial Council of Health Ministers Australia and New Zealand, and the last time around in 2002 it was knocked on the head. Food Standards have decided that they're going to consult more widely, and in fact they're even going overseas now for consultation. So that timetable has been blown out to probably May, June next year before it gets up to the Ministerial Council, which is disappointing, but nonetheless, they're not going to keep on getting an application saying that there's nothing wrong with it and having it knocked on the head by the Ministerial Council. The last time round, the Ministerial Council just said, 2 reasons we won't approve it: public perception that hemp is aligned with marijuana, and the second is that it's too hard to police. Now, there's policing in place, as Peter just said earlier about poppies. There's been policing in place for tobacco, for hops, for just about anything else. So that's a first. And as for public perception, that's part of what the association is trying to do by attending at expos and sustainability festivals and trying to re-educate the public. And in fact, what we're finding is the public knows. It's just that
It's only 70 blokes in Melbourne that haven't worked it out.
Our government ministers think that the electorate will vote them out if they vote hemp in. And it's not just Victoria, it's Australia-wide, it's politicians Australia-wide. And what, as an association, we're trying to do is encourage people to write to their politicians, and I'm working on a letter to make it easier for guys like you to just fill in the gaps and alter it the way you want to alter it and send it in, because the more evidence of this that the politicians can get, the more in their face, and they're going to have to answer the questions, and they can't just keep on saying public perception is, because it's just wrong.
More frightened the opposition will make an issue out of it.
They have to substantiate it, and that's what I said. Now, if Food Standards Australia and New Zealand goes through a process, they had public submissions that closed in April. The association submitted, as did nearly 200 other entities. They then, as I said, going more broadly to consult more broadly, even overseas, and they're going for a second round of public submissions, and I believe that's in September or October. It could be blown out a little bit now as well. So I encourage anybody who's interested in furthering in this industry to put their name to it and submit to Food Standards and or to their health minister in their state. How you going, Rick?
Fine. Thanks to Daniel.
Fruit fly? No, we don't want fruit fly.
We want his hand.
So the minister's right on top of it. The website's still signed by the old minister,
Yep.
for the new one.
Really, yeah.
That's an embarrassment.
Hemp isn't really even mentioned on the website other than those readers, I said.
Right.
You really have to in the government, you really have to and get on the phone is basically.
So it's not as, shall we say, popular as tomatoes.
Okay, I'll get the lights.
Have a look at the New South Wales website too, if you want.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry about the delay on that. My name's Greg.